spring is definitely a little different than what it was a few years ago. We only had football to talk about.
Hmm.
And it's still going to be what we're talking about. I mean, it really is. I'm ready for fall football already. But and we're going to talk a little bit today about the baseball team. Had a kind of a disappointing weekend. The
Oh yeah.
basketball team season come to a close, but they've got to add players left and right now, so that team is gone.
Right.
But as always, Bob, let's talk about what we've did for 25, 40 years for us. Let's talk spring football.
Yeah. We'll start off with that, Tim. We're going to talk a little bit about the good and the bad of spring ball so far, and let's start off with the good, which is what we normally would talk about anyway. And I think there's several players that's kind of jumped out so far, and there's still some practices to go. So this may change some before the end of spring, but some of the ones that stuck out to me is okay. Let's start on the offensive line. You know, early before spring practice, me and you discussed that we felt like one key exiting spring was that William Satterwhite would win the starting center spot. That would be a good sign.
Yeah, if he can take it and run with it.
And it looks like he's got the spot. I mean, as of right now, it looks like it is anyway. That's still very early on, but so far they haven't really pushed the panic button and moved anybody over. So that's a great sign. Another sign there is that William Moy looks like a stud at the left guard spot, and they're not disappointed at all with Sam Pendleton.
No, you're right about that. They were very happy with the guards they got out of the portal.
Mm-hmm.
We got in. I think they've been happy since they've gotten here. But the more you listen to them talking about Moy, God, I can't help but feeling we may have a star, the anchor of the offensive line right there. Uh, I'm not going to rule out an all-conference, all-American type of year out of this kid.
I wouldn't doubt it, man. He had a really good year last year with Arizona, and then he comes here, and then the first few things you hear about him is the fact that he's even twitchier than what he thought he was. The word twitchy at 345, and he's down to 325 now. And the fact that they mentioned the fact that he did a great job with the mental aspect of it, the fact that he's great at recognizing stuff on the fly.
He's got a twitchy mind too, apparently.
And that's something that's very so underrated at offensive line's position. I mean, when you got guys who it's a position that your assignment is this, it could totally change who you're blocking and such within a blink of an eye, and you've got to be able to recognize that, and that's something I reckon he's very good at.
Well, I've heard my whole life at all positions. Got to learn how to play fast.
Yeah.
And you do that by being recognition.
Yeah.
And he seems to be a great athlete, but he's not going the wrong direction. He's picking up the right guy. That's a recipe for tremendous success.
Yes. So that's one very positive sign, if you ask me, at this point in spring. Let's flip the other side real quick.
Before we take off of that, Bob, I want to talk about David Sanders a little bit too.
Oh, yeah.
On the offense.
Yeah, let's go with David Sanders, right.
I don't think there's been like a ton of information about David Sanders other than he's kind of where they expect him to be.
Yeah. He's an athletic freak, which we kind of knew.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really negative.
No. I didn't expect him to come in spring practice and just grab the spot and run.
Right.
I think I've heard you say really, I'm going to be looking at David Sanders the first 2 or 3 days in pads in the fall to see how much strength, how much mental jump he's made between the end of spring
Right.
and then.
Yeah. I mean, we knew you want to get a lot of the stuff work done, but it's that first few days of fall practice, we want to hear some buzz about him being bigger, look stronger, and even better, further along than what he was in spring.
It wouldn't be a shock to see Larry Johnson start the year.
Right.
He's changed his body tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would, if we didn't have David Sanders, I think we'd be very pleased right now with the change that we've seen in Larry Johnson from the time he got here to now.
Yeah.
But overall, the offensive line, I would say, is the bright spot from day one to midway through spring practice.
I agree, and it's got a chance to be an improved unit, which is surprising since you lost 4 guys. I mean, we talked about
A lot of starts.
Hurd at left tackle, I think has to be better. Still second year older, better shape.
Yeah. And apparently, possibly a whole lot healthier.
Yeah, he was a little more banged up than what we realized last year, I feel like. Uh, you know, another position, one I was going to flip to there, we'll flip back to offense, was Caleb Beasley. When he switched from corner to safety, I mean, you mentioned that was because of one or two things we felt like was either he looked like he was a flop at corner or could be a potential stud at that safety because we had such low numbers at corner.
Right, it's just odd timing with the loss of
McCoy,
and then you had the kind of the off the field drama with
Gibson. Right.
It was an odd time to move someone who could compete back at cornerback. So
right, it didn't make a lot of sense, but everything we're hearing is he looks fantastic there. So he might be able to win a job there, man. And I tell you what, if he could do that, that would make that safety spot look a lot better because you already got Farouk, who was a very young guy, talented. John Slaughter, very not so young anymore, but very talented. If he ever gets it, up here, I think he's a very good safety prospect.
Turntime returning,
Jacoby Thomas.
Yeah, Jacoby.
And then
the room looks a lot better.
It does. And let's while we're in that secondary, let's talk about Boo Carter, another guy who we felt like it's some good news out of spring so far is that he seems like he's made a big jump. And if you got him where he's made a big jump and this safety position ends up getting better with McCoy and Gibson, man, I tell you what, we may have the makings. There's a chance we could have an outstanding championship level secondary.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I also wonder, Bob, on the Beasley move, how much of that might have been kind of handiwork of our addition of Alan Williams, the former NFL defensive coordinator,
right,
as an analyst, moving him to coach, doing a lot of his coaching at the safety spot.
Mm-hmm.
Was that someone coming in and saying, "Hey, I see this guy over here. I want him in my room."
Right. And that's kind of what I feel like. I haven't heard nobody else say that out there, but that's kind of something I was kind of thinking, and we're also our safety, our recruiting has really, we've added some new names here recently. So I really wonder, let's say he came in and he said, "Hey, Beasley needs to be a safety," and then it looks like it's paying off. They're probably like, "Hey, look at the rest of our recruiting board and see what you think." And he looked at some guys and said, "Hey, this guy, we need to recruit this guy." You know what I mean? A little harder than what we have been or so on.
Well, it would be silly to bring someone in with his experience and not seek out his input.
Absolutely.
And not just on the current players, but who you're recruiting. Right. So that probably has a lot to do with our defensive back recruiting, which seems to be the most in flux of any position group. But going back to spring ball, some more things that you'd fall under the good category.
Okay. Well, I would say Dwan Morris looking good at running back.
With the ball in his hand,
yes,
he's ready to play now, it seems like.
Right. It's just that mental thing with all freshmen running back. It's always going to be pass protection.
Yeah.
The little thing.
Good quote, the little thing.
Right.
Yes.
Another one on the offensive side is a big development, even though this guy hopefully won't get to play any this year or very little, or at least in the fourth quarter of some games.
Yeah.
Jake Berklinger seems to have made a big jump. He changed his grip some, and apparently it's made big dividends in practice. He's throwing the ball great. I reckon he's the one that threw the big time pass to Travis Smith that everybody was wooing about in the scrimmage. But, and the big thing about that is, to me, it's not just the future, but it allows our coaching staff maybe to
call the game a little different.
Yeah, I mean, if they feel like, hey, we got a guy over here that we think can win us ball games if Nico gets hurt, then you can run him a little bit more. And to me, I think we all know that a running quarterback stresses the defense. There's nothing out there that a defense coordinator hates worse than having to worry about a running quarterback.
Yeah, and there's nothing to stress an offensive coach more than worrying about getting your quarterback hurt when you don't have anyone that you have confidence in behind them.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And I really felt like we didn't run Nico as much last year
For that reason.
reason, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
And if we think we got a guy that can win us ball games in the backup, I think we'll run him more. I mean, you're not want to get him hurt, also.
Well, they're going to teach him one thing, and that's get down.
Get down.
Get down.
Get down.
You don't have to pick up that extra 2 yards all the time at the quarterback position.
Right.
But yeah, Merklinger has been one of the very best bright spots on the team. Additionally, Bob, I kind of, and I may be totally wrong. I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, but I've been happy with some of the play of the younger wide receivers and everything. And I want to say, in a lot of ways, I feel confident about that group, the wide receiver group. But it's also one of the biggest fears, and we'll get into the bad later.
Right.
But on the good side of that, I think the 2 freshmen right now that came in, Darius Jackson, has wowed people. And obviously, like you said a moment ago, Smith has definitely made a big impact right off the bat.
Absolutely. And let me say real quick, guys, remember to like, subscribe, leave us a comment, hit that notification bell. We really do appreciate you. And you know, going to what you're saying there, Tim, I think those 2 guys have not disappointed at all so far. Travis Smith physically looks like a guy who can play right off. Had that big time scrimmage, first scrimmage. I'll be curious to see what he does in this next scrimmage come Monday night. Like you said, I've heard very good things about Darius Jackson. You know, heard good things about Mike Matthews and Staley.
Yeah, Staley has been a bright spot of right ball.
You know, I really like the talent level of a wide receiver room. We just got to make sure they jump up. We was a little concerned about that. It was one of our biggest.
Well, we can get into that. If I had to say one thing about bad and overall,
yeah,
it'd be an injury situation, but specifically in the wide receiver room. Staley's been out,
right?
And man, our numbers are they're thin.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you want to talk about the bad, you got that. Yeah, I think you had to mention Ketzelman. You're talking about a thin room. Our tight end position.
Ethan Davis and freshman.
Right. And that's a position when you want to look at post-spring portal. That and maybe defensive tackle might be the spots that you might look at for a spot. Maybe wide receiver, because we're super thin. I think the coaching staff's going to be looking at some of these guys and say, you know, can these guys help us? Because it looks a lot more like Ketzelman may not be ready for the very beginning and start of the season. So that's going to hurt. You know, and then you have you know, the only other big time guy that right now we feel like we're going to lose, maybe, or could be a missed game time or be out up until the start of the season is McCoy. So injuries have probably been our biggest thing we've been concerned about so far.
Yeah, because so many people's missed. Luckily, I think most of it's just out of abundance of precaution.
Yeah.
I mean, other players would be playing right now if they had to.
I mean, our linebackers are super thin. We was really hoping to see some of our freshman linebackers like Jaden Perlotti and
Jaden Harmon.
We was hoping to see more of a Marion Dye at that defensive end spot. We thought that might be a guy who could make some noise this year. He's missed some.
You mentioned defensive tackle a moment ago, Nate Robinson.
Yes.
And Jamal Wallace, 2 guys who would probably be in the rotation if they're playing right now.
Yeah, that's one reason why we may have to go get another one, because we really got 3 guys we really like. We got Bryce Neeson, Jackson Moy, David Hobbs, and then it starts to get thin. I mean,
they got 2 true freshmen come in.
Right. Utley needs to gain some weight, so I really can't see him doing much now. Now Campbell, though, I think is a future star, but
yeah, the future might be sooner than you think.
I think he will play some this year. I do think you'll see some playing time from him. But we're thin after that. I mean, like you said, Nathan Robinson, who they like, but he's been hurt pretty much the whole time he's been down there. And then Wallace, you know, he's JUCO guy who didn't see hardly any action last year, or didn't see any action actually, I don't think. But
well, it's concerning with him as much as anything is because he's still in the process of learning a new position.
He basically know, like defensive end, stand up guy a lot of times.
I mean, I don't think he really put his hand on the ground in dirt even at the defensive end spot.
Yeah.
Former linebacker, I believe it was, that just kept growing.
Right. So yeah, that's one spot that you may see go transfer portal. Just the injuries has really probably been the biggest thing, which, like you said, a lot of them's minor stuff or stuff they just don't want to keep dragging on in the fall practice type stuff. I understand that, you know.
Yeah, but that would be the bad thing, but nothing to push the panic button back.
Yeah.
About yet.
Right.
And speaking of that panic button, I wouldn't be pushing it for the baseball team either.
No. I mean, I will say that was about as horrible as a Saturday as you could ask for the Vols, man. To get blowed out 9-3 and then 17-6, I think it was, in the second game against a team who was
one of the most disappointing teams in the nation, to be honest.
absolutely. I mean, preseason #1 and really in danger of playing in the postseason. I mean, this
Coach in danger of losing his job.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was crazy, but you know,
And a home series at that.
right. But this is baseball, something you got to remember. This is baseball, which is inferior teams can definitely come up and beat you.
They do every whole time.
And it's the SEC, which is a bad team in the SEC, is still a pretty good team.
Best baseball team in the league in America.
Right. But, you know, just keep in mind that those things, and you know, who knows, they may be Texas A&M may be on the way back up.
That could be, but
They've had a lot of injury stuff.
and we still got some players out.
Yeah, I mean, when you figure we got our best pitcher possibly out with AJ Russell, and our best hitter, Gavin Killen, out right now. And both, I think, will be probably back in the full rotation in the next couple of weeks. I think Killen may be back. I expect him to be back next weekend, back in the starting lineup myself.
And AJ Russell's starting to throw some.
Yeah, I mean, he pitched in one inning in the midweek this week. I didn't play this weekend, so I wonder if they'll do another midweek inning or two, and then, you know, he may even skip the midweek and go in the next weekend, try to throw a couple innings.
Yeah, I think we're gonna start seeing his innings increase slowly. They're building him up for postseason.
Yeah.
Speaking of postseason, Bob, we had disappointing that our postseason ended in both men and women's basketball.
Good runs, though. Good runs.
Yeah, got to say successful seasons for both teams.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Tim. Unfortunately, we lost a ton on the men's team, and but on the bright side, we may have captured the #1 portal guy out there, and Jacoby Gillespie out of Maryland, a local kid.
Yeah, came from up the road here in Greenville. Went to Belmont, I believe it was, and then went to Maryland. And we needed somebody to kind of take over that Ziegler's spot. I believe it'd be him.
Yeah.
Still a long way to go. We went after McNeely, the shooter out of I believe it was Virginia, who was one of the top shooting guards out there.
Yeah.
We're going to have to pick up some more guard plays, but
Yeah, definitely. I think we get 2 or 3 more guards, and I think you got to get a post guy, whether it's you know, stretch 4 or somebody who can post up. But
we didn't have that at all this year.
no, we didn't. You know, I mean, as far as somebody could just throw his ball down to and him make a move, and
Yeah, 60% of our interior points were off of Ziegler penetrations and then lobbing it off.
right. I mean, you get Estrada back. But
Estrada.
Eric Estrada. That name.
Yeah, you ain't watching chips no more.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. I was like, yeah, that name does sound very familiar. But yeah, you get him back, but you know, despite what some people think, he's not a big time offensive guy. I mean, we missed him. It'd been nice to have him this year, but I mean, he was early on running behind Apara. So to think he's going to come in and be like this superstar next year on the inside is, to me,
Probably wishful thinking.
in my opinion, in this guy's opinion, that it's just a fan. You know what I mean? But
Plus, I don't think how much post did you play back in the day, Bob?
more than what most people would think at my size.
Actually, yeah, that was kind of a trick question.
I played a little bit out of position. I just could jump real well.
Yeah, 4'11", couldn't dribble or shoot outside, so he had to go in.
So go in. Can you imagine post? Go with the ball. I got this guy that's a foot and a half taller than me.
Yeah. In your defense, I've seen you block people's shots that were a foot and a half taller than you.
I probably did,
Uh,
but
I remember one time, 3 or 4 times in a row, until his friends started making fun of him even. But
yeah,
that said,
good times.
yeah, good times.
Yeah.
But I think we also need a guy who can penetrate the slasher,
Yeah.
take out Gainey roll. Gainey could go get the bucket.
Yeah, we need a guy like that. We need a penetrator, and we need a lot. We need guys to penetrate.
We need somebody to finish at the ring.
Yeah, we need to finish. Yeah, somebody hit that mid-range shot that Gainey was hitting very well toward the end of the season, and we need some outside shooters.
This team's going to be just totally different. I think I'm going to go ahead and say early April here. I barely miss April Fool's Day, so I'll make a foolish thing. It's good or better on offense next year, though. We'll take a step back on defense.
That'd be hard not to. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm not saying we'll be a bad defensive team, but no, we're going to have to be better on offense to make up for the drop, I believe.
Yeah.
But the portal, it is open. Any other portal names out there right now that you want to bring up, Bob?
We got the Vanderbilt guy whose name escapes me right at the moment. Should have wrote that down, but there was some noise that he committed, and then that information got.
And what is his position? Since neither one of us can remember his name.
Yeah, I know he's power forward, I think. So he might fill that forward spot. He was a good player. I remember playing against him this past year.
Yeah, once he had 14 and maybe 12 against us.
Something like that, yeah. And then you know, there's not a whole lot out there right now. That sure that's going to change. The names are going to change here really soon. But
Well, I've seen names pop on, pop off already.
yeah. But I will say this, as far as the Lady Ball is concerned, they seem to be swinging for the fences a little bit. It looks like they're going to try to get a couple players in, and one of them who looks like they may be the leader for the Florida State transfer, which is the leading scorer in the country, around 25 points a game, and she
Her name is
I'll have to
Latson.
Latson, yes. We don't remember names very well.
That's right, George.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, she's as of right now, from what I'd seen on one side, was the number one transfer portal person. So Gillespie,
Yeah, had her rated at 99 out of 100.
Yeah.
5'8".
yeah,
Is going to be able to play this type ball too.
yeah. I mean, you got her, and well, don't have her, but looks like we very well could get her. And she scored like 38 against the Lady Vols, wasn't it, Tim?
Yeah, we saw her up close and personal, and was not happy with what we saw. At least she's on your team.
Yeah, I bet Tim was like, "Hey, we need this girl on our team."
Oh yeah, she shot the ball 25 times against us and hit about 60% of them.
Yeah, not bad.
She's a playmaker, man.
Yeah,
We can play defense too.
The top portal player in men's basketball was Jacoby Gillespie.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, some people have them there.
Yeah, and then and this girl here,
Ernie Latson.
right? And I've heard some other names as far as the Lady Vols is concerned. So it seems like they're going to try to go pretty big time. And then they got the 5 girls coming in next year that are the top 50 players in the country.
Super recruiting class. Freshman.
Right. So and you got most of the big time players coming back next year. I could definitely see the Lady Vols pushing for an Elite 8, Final 4 type thing next year. Very possible.
Yeah, I think they'll push Final 4. And depending on how, obviously, they could go out before Final 8 or Elite 8. Depending on the matchups.
Right. But I think
this is a top 10 team.
Yeah. They're going to be competing right there. Yeah, I agree.
So fun times with Kim there.
Right.
And who knows, she might even coach better if she ain't having to bounce a baby on her knee
Yeah.
in the timeouts,
Right. Yeah.
But with that said, Bob, is there anything you want to add?
No, I think that's about it. I mean, just like we've said over and over and over again, it's a great time to be a Tennessee Vol fan, and like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell. We just really appreciate you. And go Vols.
And go Big Orange, guys. Let's go Vols.